Good morning, everybody. Have a cup of coffee with me this morning. I hope that you're enjoying your day. And I wanted to discuss what happens when you are dealing with negative energy and how that impacts your spirituality. As a spiritual empath, you absorb a lot of the energy of other people, and it can be overwhelming to the senses. It is for me. I get very overwhelmed, especially if I'm in a large group of people. I've found that over the years I've been more and more isolating myself. I really love my alone time. I've got a house full of people, and I noticed that we're all kind of the same way in my home. But when I am feeling overwhelmed with negativity, I always go into isolation, and I just have to recharge, um, just remove all of the toxicity and the negative energy that's around me, because it almost feels like it's seeping into my DNA. And I start becoming so overwhelmed with it that I do lose my, and it's not like I lose it, but I'm not tapped into source anymore. And when that happens, everything starts going haywire because I'm not listening to my intuition. I'm not feeling spirit inside of me anymore. And it just feels like such a massive disconnect. So what I tend to do when I am being confronted with a lot of negativity is I go into, I really try to stay in a higher vibrational frequency. And the only way I can do that is if I am isolating myself. And maybe that's not a healthy way of doing it. I know that a lot of other people experience these kind of circumstances a lot. However, what is most important to me is really trying to keep that higher level of vibration happening at all times. And when there are a lot of negative people, circumstances, situations happening, things that are happening in the world, I just try to shut myself off from that completely, because all it's doing is keeping me at a very heavy vibrational energy. It feels like I'm walking through mud all the time, and I need to break away from that. And that's just my spirit's begging me to get away from all of that negative energy and influence. So I listen to a lot of meditations, and I've even created my own meditation. And one thing that the subconscious mind is really beautiful at doing is listening to yourself. And that's how we become so easily reprogrammed, is by the thoughts that we think, the words that we say, as well as obviously the outside influences of the world, whether that be your family, your peers, friends. Our subconscious mind is easily persuaded to think negatively because it's always in protection mode. So when our subconscious mind is always trying to protect us from outside exterior dangers, we have to counteract that by being positive, by convincing our subconscious mind that it's safe to be free of those restraints or those restrictions that our subconscious mind puts on us in order to protect us. So that protective mechanism that is built into each and every human being is sometimes the kiss of death when you want productive and positive, good things to happen in your life, because everything is energetically based. So when we are subconsciously thinking about negative things, or when we are our subconscious mind is trying to protect us from negative outside forces or things that it feels that may be a danger to us, it's always going to kick into that default mode. And it's not a good thing when you want to be productive. It's not a good thing when you want different aspects of your life to change for the better. So I had created my own subliminal messaging track that I have listened to every night. And the best way for me to explain how these changes have impacted my life for the better. First of all, I've had to eliminate a lot of people out of my life for various different reasons. And this has been happening now for the past 2 years now, maybe longer. But I didn't realize, because we get so attached to things that are familiar to us. But I didn't realize how devastating these things and negative people and negative situations and circumstances were having a negative outcome in my life. And I didn't know how to change it until I just started flat out saying, no, I'm not going to be allowing this into my space anymore. So sometimes we have to make those hard choices in order to self-preserve, and that's what I call it, self-preservation. And we have to eliminate a lot of toxic people and things in our lives, whether that's an addiction, whether that is family members, whether that is old patterns and ways of thinking that has never served you any good, because I know it's never served me any good. And breaking those patterns is a conscious effort. And I had to be very, very conscious of who and what and how my life was being directed by all of the negative influences in it. So cutting it out, that was priority number one. I stopped listening to the news back in 2006. And ironically enough, a month after I stopped listening to the news, Katrina hit, and I didn't even realize that Katrina had hit because I hadn't been listening to the news. I had eliminated all of that, and social media back then wasn't as big as it is now, so we weren't being bombarded with all of the news on the internet as much as we are today. So it was a lot easier then to, kind of be very selective in what you wanted to hear and the kind of messaging that you wanted to hear. But now it's more challenging for sure. I mean, we've got our phones with us all the time. The one thing that we always carry with us is our phone. And so we're always being bombarded with negative messages. But when we are selective in what we listen to in order to keep our vibrational energy high, it starts, it becomes an addiction in itself. It really does, in a good way though, because you're telling your subconscious mind that you're no longer willing to accept these negative interferences or this toxicity into your world. So what starts happening is your subconscious mind starts reframing all of the negative into positives. And it takes a while to get there. It really does. Negative things happen all the time. We cannot get away from that. We can try to shelter ourselves as much as possible, but the reality is we still exist on this planet. And as long as we exist here, there's always going to be something that is going to, disrupt our higher vibrational energy. So we need to be mindful to practice that every day. And even if you don't create your own subliminal messaging track, there's so many on YouTube that are phenomenal, and they really, really work. Whether that's to remove negative energy, whether it's to replace subconscious thinking around money, around relationships, building up your self-confidence, helping you speak better. Maybe I should listen to a few more of those. But whatever the case is, whatever it is that you need to heal or eliminate from your life and replace with something more positive, listening to subliminal tracks at night is the best way that I can think of, and that I could guide anybody to be able to do that and to start seeing an actual outcome from. And when we are not just programming our minds subliminally through nighttime meditations, waking up in the morning and journaling and just pulling out a pad and a paper and writing down your thoughts, writing down what you're grateful for, setting out intentional goals every single day is going to help you reframe the way you function day to day. And it's going to allow you, and it happens automatically. It's going to allow you to start working toward a positive way of thinking, a higher vibrational energy, and achieving the goals that you want to see come to fruition in your life. So that is one of the strategies that I use and have been using now to overcome a lot of the grief, a lot of the negative influences that have been in my life, and take ownership of how I want to direct the course of my life. And that's what we have to do. We've got to be responsible and take ownership, because we've only got one go round here. So we want to make sure that the time that we have here in this world, that it's going to be impactful to us. It's going to be impactful to the people around us, and we're going to be making a difference and having that impact felt from many people around us. And the more positive that we intentionally are, the better impact that is on other people. And that becomes a trickle effect. And that becomes the pebble in the pond, and those ripples just keep going and going. And ultimately, you start seeing things and feeling things and experiencing things in an entirely different light. So I hope that this message had an impact on you, and that you start doing things that are going to be in the best interest for you, for your subconscious, and for your spirit to thank you. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with somebody who may need to hear this message today. So until next video, next message, God bless.